I hope it's a wrap. I hope I don't have to do any work after tomorrow. Um, just want to say thank you to all of you who are joining us, whether you are joining us via Zoom or Facebook. My name is Ahmed Dents. I'm the development coordinator here at San Diego Repertory Theater. And again, thank all of you for joining me. Give me just a second while I take care of some technical things here. Uh, Again, thank all of you for joining us tonight. This is We Are Listening. If you've been with us before, thank you for coming back to take part in another what is going to be a great conversation. A couple of housekeeping notes as we get ready to get into our conversation. I want everybody's in the room right now watching, make sure that you have your microphone and your camera on mute. Your microphone and your camera on mute, please. Uh, yes, your microphone, your camera on mute. You might, if you know how, you might want to go into your settings and make sure you are only have everything set on speaker view, so you'll only see me and my guests in your camera settings in case someone does turn their camera on. So again, please go ahead and make sure you mute your microphones and turn off your cameras. Again, for those that's coming in, my name is Ahmed Dents, Development Coordinator here at San Diego Repertory Theater. This is We Are Listening. This is basically our bi-weekly conversation where we talk to theater professionals of African American descent, Black theater professionals, uh, whatever the acronym you want to use, because it changes every 3 years. So theater professionals of a melanated hue, should I say. And we're just, capturing their experiences in this performing arts world. Of course, as you know, it's the climate we've been in this year, not only with the pandemic, but with heightened racial tension and racial awareness due to, a lot of violent things happening this year. That has spurred these talks. And we thank all of you for taking part in these conversations. Again, they are bi-weekly. I do want to give you guys just a couple of notes about things that are happening. This is now a partnership between three theaters. This is now, We Are Listening is a partnership between San Diego Repertory Theater, La Jolla Playhouse, and the Old Globe. So I want to thank everybody involved with those theaters. I want to thank ahead of time Freedom Bradley Valentine, Jacole Kitchen, and all the staff at both of those theaters who are going to be putting this together and help curating the guests and the content. And we look forward to it being a great conversation and a great partnership moving forward. A couple of things I want to let you know about that are happening here at San Diego Repertory Theater. As you know, most performing arts and most media right now is stuck in the world of doing things in a virtual sense. And until we can get back to see each other in person and actually visit our favorite performing arts houses, most everybody's doing things virtually. And I want to tell you about a couple of things we have coming up. On September 13th, we have Hershey Felder as George Gershwin Alone. George Gershwin Alone tells the story of America's great composer who, with the groundbreaking A Rhapsody in Blue, made a lady out of jazz. The show incorporates the composer's best-known songs from The Man I Love to Someone to Watch Over Me, from the hits of An American Paris and Porgy and Bess. Again, you can purchase tickets to view Hershey Felder as George Gershwin live at sdrep.org. Again, that will be on September 13th. And then let me tell you about my man, Mr. Herbert Sequenza. A Weekend with Pablo Picasso is back, but it is in film form. That's why I am coming to you here from the SD-Rep rehearsal hall and not from my usual place at the theater, because the theater had been turned into a film site all week. They are wrapping up filming now, and Herbert will be doing his thing as Pablo Picasso in film form. You can watch that Weekend Pablo Picasso, written and performed by Herbert Sequenza, directed by Tim Powell and Todd Salovey. If you have never seen it live, I really suggest you go ahead and purchase a ticket to watch it on film. It is a great show. Herbert is the man. Again, you can get more information about all that at sdrep.org. Also want to talk to you about my next guest on We Are Listening coming up on September 10th. Again, we are now in partnership with La Jolla Playhouse and the Old Globe. And coming up on September 10th, we will have the one and only Sheldon Epps. That's That's right. The highly esteemed Sheldon Epps will be my guest here on We Are Listening. And for those of you who know Sheldon, spectacular, accomplished director, was the artistic director emeritus at Pasadena Playhouse. He has now accepted a new role as a senior artistic advisor for the Ford Theater in Washington, D.C. So I know that'll be a great conversation to have with Sheldon. So make sure you sign up for that. Head on over to sdrep.org/listening. We have changed the sign up a little bit to make it a little bit easier. Head on over to sdrep.org/listening to sign up. You can also sign up. The main sign up point is on Eventbrite. Just search We Are Listening or Sheldon Epps, and you can sign up and get the Zoom link for that interview. So now let me quit running my mouth by myself and let me introduce tonight's guest. Tonight's guest, two outstanding theater professionals. And I know this is going to be a great conversation. So I'm going to ask Bill and Ebony to come on and turn their cameras on and join me now. Tonight, I am joined by award-winning author and playwright Bill Wright. And I'm also joined by Craig Knoll award-winning actress Ebony Muse. How y'all doing?
Hi, good. How are you?
I'm good.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you for joining us. Like I really appreciate it. And Bill, I was really spurred. The first thing that spurred me to invite you is because you watched the first episode.
I did.
You watched the first episode, and
then
you were on Facebook screaming like, "Hey, I don't think like that." And I was like, "Good, come on and talk to me about it."
You did. You said, "Well, come on." Yes. So here I am. And I didn't take you seriously until I got the invitation.
Oh no! If I tell you to come on and talk, I mean it. And Ebony, you were actually suggested to me by one of our production staff, Sarah Zimmerman. She actually suggested that I have you come on. She had told me how much work you were doing during the protests and everything, and that just all bleeds into what these conversations are about. So let's go ahead and get into it. I want, like I said, anybody can read a bio, but I like the audience to get a sense of who you are from your own lips. So I want to start with you, Ebony. Why don't you go ahead and tell everybody who's listening who you are, what you do, and what got you into this performing arts world?
Oh my goodness, that's a loaded question. Well, my name is Ebony Muse, and that's Ebony with an I. I got into theater by accident, actually. I started off as a child when I was dancing. I started dancing, and then I found that I could sing, and I wanted to be Aretha. I wanted to be, those type of singers. And then when I got into high school, someone suggested I should be in a musical. I watched them all the time with my family, but I didn't know really what it was like to be in one. And I got into Children of Eden as Mama Noah, and that was all she wrote. End of the road. I was like, I love this. I can act, I can sing, I can do some dancing in this, I can do all the things that I want to do. And it was I fell in love. So musical theater was my first love.
That's right.
And I've been in things such as Chicago. I've been in Children of Eden. I've been in Little Shop of Horrors. I've performed at SeaWorld in their Christmas shows. I've done, I played Audrey too in Little Shop of Horrors, which I just did. But I got to play Audrey too. I was a real plant, talking, moving, eating people. So that was fun. That was a new experience.
Right. And
I won the Craig Knoll Award for Motormouth with San Diego Musical Theater. Done some other things, but keep it short.
That's right. How about you, Bill? Give us a little bit of your background and how you got into this wonderful world that we work in.
Well, I'm older than Ebony, so it won't be quite as short, but I actually was born in New York, moved to Connecticut, and came back to New York. Always loved theater. I remember I went to a camp called Science and Arts Camp, and I was 15, and they did scenes from Macbeth, and I was Macbeth. And I remember having an argument with my mother about whether or not I should have one costume for the dagger scene and one for the banquet scene, or whether one could cover it, and I won. So we can jump ahead to after high school. I took a year off and I got a job during that time at the Public Theater. And I started as a prop runner and then got graduated to prop master. And it gave me a real opportunity to see some wonderful people up close. Morgan Freeman, E.D., Gloria Foster. I saw George Faison when he was still a choreographer, had a dance company. And then I auditioned for NYU. I decided that I didn't want to stay at the Public. At that point, after you did props, you would be an assistant stage manager, and then you would move to stage manager, then you would be production stage manager, and I didn't want to go that route. So I auditioned for NYU, got my degree there. And I think after our presentations, at the end of your coursework, you have presentations, and that's where the agents come and the theaters come. And I remember very distinctly for the first time understanding there was a separation between what they called leading men and character men. And on the call board, I had all these rep companies to do Shakespeare and about 3 commercial agents. And I was very upset because a lot of people got commercial agents. And the 3 that picked me or wanted me to represent me weren't that good, but I also didn't want to leave town. I didn't want to be in Ohio Shakespeare Company or Nevada Shakespeare Company. So I was very discouraged, and I decided, I mean, to be a character man as a man who's not of color is already difficult. As a man of color, character men have a really hard time getting jobs, especially if you're not singer-dancer first. And I was actor first. So I went to grad school and got my degree in playwriting and directing. And then 2 years later, because I'd always written, I published my first novel. And I found also that with publishing, it's manuscript first, not, oh, he's Black, we have to think about whether or not we can hire him. So an editor first will look at your manuscript and decide you're a good writer and they want to publish you, as opposed to auditioning for a casting director and trying to figure out whether or not they want to go Black. So I stayed with my writing and published more novels. Checking my notes, Ebony. Ebony said, do you have notes? I absolutely do, because I remember everything. Oh, I also wanted to say at the Public Theater, Joe Papp, who started the Public Theater, was actually the reason he did and so committed to diversity was because he was a first-generation American and his parents were Russian Jews. So he was determined to have a theater that represented New York City. So to be in that environment, and that's why I got to see people like Morgan Freeman and Gloria Foster, because he had no problem bringing them in to play roles that they wouldn't ordinarily be playing. After I started writing, I pretty much stuck with novel writing and then started to direct again and write plays again, and had some, well, certainly I have been published. I have 4 novels published and done some directing as well. And then I decided to move to San Diego. I think that the city is representing what's going on with the country right now, and it's rough. It was rough for me.
Yeah.
And I decided I wanted to come to a different environment.
That's right. And that's a great segue, as you said, like the city representing what's happening in the country, because it is a rough time for everybody. This is a rough time. Like, this is a rough time, especially, and not just especially, it's a rough time for everybody, and it's about almost every industry, unless you're like unless you work in the stock market or you run hedge funds or something like that. Like, unless it's something like that, or you own a corporation, it's pretty rough. I tell people, that I've mentioned all the time, a 15-year career in radio, was wiped out just due to our situation in coronavirus that I had. So, and I've watched friends in this media world and in this performing arts world who are really struggling right now because we can't do what we do.
I pulled actually some statistics.
Let's do it.
2017, Actors Equity Diversity Study reported that 8.63% of all of the principal contracts in that year. 8.63, and 2.3% in management. That's pretty rough.
That's rough. Yeah, that's rough. And so here we now are in 2020 with, that's already decimation in itself.
Right.
And so here we are now having now a kind of a hyper conversation that we've all had amongst ourselves, amongst ourselves at the tables and in the side of the office, or at the corner of the opening night, or in the theater, or we've had amongst our family members on the challenges of being in this mainstream space of theater, in this, like, I don't, like I said, I only know it from the administrative side. I don't know it from the performer or writer side, only from what I've been able to see.
Right.
So let's go to you, Ebony. If you could you outline, because the people who are watching this generally want to know, if they don't know, or if they halfway understand, they really want to know what we're talking about or what we're seeing. If you could, Ebony, tell me, what are some of the challenges that you have had during your career or during your time, and what you've seen since you've been in this performing arts world?
Personally, I would say that on an individual level, that I've been pretty blessed, mainly because I have my family to help me with a lot of things. So as an actor, I don't solely depend on trying to make money as an actor. You know what I mean? So for me, if I don't want to take a role, if I feel like this company's not good for me, I can be like, deuces, you know what I mean? But for other actors that are beautifully melanated, they haven't had that luxury. We get skipped over for roles and shows that I could easily sing in a legit show. Right. But when people call me, they call me to sing gospel. They call me for that one gospel musical they do throughout the year, which, I mean, I love to do. And I'm not going to say that I don't have fun doing it, but I have other talents. I as a Black actor, I get labeled a Blackter. And I get pigeonholed into certain roles, and it's not fair, because I would love to be, in a little night music. I would absolutely love to play a lead role in Into the Woods. Shows, and those are just small examples, but I love those shows. I like Bernadette Peters is like one of my idols. Anything that she has. Sunday in the Park with George. Like, come on. I can do all those things. I have the training to do those things, but I'm not hired for those things. I'm not even considered. It's like, we're not even going into the fact that, my being a plus size adds on to that, but that's a whole nother situation, but nobody thinks, hey, let me call Ebony to come sing this legit, you know, maybe even a mezzo soprano if you don't feel like I can hit the soprano notes, even though I'm a soprano. Maybe I don't have the tone that you want, but nobody says, let's put her in the alto section of this show. She could play this role. Maybe let's try her out for this role. I don't get that consideration, even though I have the skills to do so.
Right.
So that's definitely been a struggle for me. And even before, when I was younger and doing like dancing things and little singing things, it was the exact same thing in high school, exact same thing. And I love my high school people. I love my old drama teachers, but it was the same thing. And at that time I was, a little diva. So I was like, yes, this is what I do. I know they're going to call me. And now as I'm older, I'm like, oh, it's not just because that's just really what I do. It's because that's all they think I can do. And for me, that's a problem. But again, like I said, I was blessed to have my family. So if I don't feel like a theater is for me, then I'm not gonna deal with you. If your whole season, it shows that I know you're not going to cast me in because that is what you are. That's what your history is. Right. I'm not even going to go out. They're like, oh, we don't have Black people coming out for auditions. That's because we know you're not going to cast us.
Yes, right.
We absolutely know that you're not going to cast us, or you're going to cast that one Black person that's Black enough that meets your quota, but not too Black to be in your show.
Yeah.
Right.
And and then if we say something, we're difficult actors to work with. If we don't take the nonsense, we're difficult actors to work with. And then we don't get hired even more.
Yeah.
Right.
So for me, it's just to the point where I've given up on some companies. I don't even audition. They call me. Sometimes I've had companies even call me and say, we want to have you come audition for the show. And I'm like, sure, when's the audition? And then I never hear back, and I find out that they've casted some white person in that role. So it's like, what's the point? It's at this point, it's what is the point? That has been my experience. And at this point, one of my friends, and I'm not sure if anybody knows her name is Tanika Batiste.
Yeah.
Of course you might know her, but she's amazing. And she brought up a good point. It's like, at this point, we need to just be worried about our own.
Yeah.
Making, putting our resources, our stock, and our talent into our own companies, and showing them that we absolutely don't need to be a part of them. They want us to come in and sing in the rafters, and they want us to come in to fill their quotas. But you're gonna have to find somebody else.
Yeah. Because
we need to be doing this for ourselves. That's where I'm at, kind of. And there's a lot of great people that I work with, have worked with, that are not melanated and are down for the cause, But sometimes you got to create your own in order to move forward. So that's been my experience where I am.
It's funny that you say that, because just today I was watching an interview with Nia Long, and she was talking about during the scope of her career, it was like her and Jada Pinkett Smith were coming up, their careers were on the same arc at the same time. And she was talking about how it seemed like the choices that the directors were giving, or that they were coming, was like, what did they want? Did they want the dark, sassy Black woman, or did they want the light-skinned, sassy Black woman? But the fact that was the choice of their characters, because they were two Black women, like, regardless of the tone of their skin, that they weren't just taking any old role, or they weren't just fitting any mold. You know what I'm saying? And it's just funny that you say that, because I was literally just watching that today, and it's like hearing you talk, I was hearing those exact same words out of Nia Long. And Bill, I want to come to you in a second, but I just want to ask you, Ebony, just real quick, because, just for discussion's sake, we're trying to give people the benefit of the doubt. Because like I said, people, they say they want these conversations right now. And this is open space. That's what this is designed for. This is to be real. How much of it, in your opinion, that you've seen, that you can gauge, is a conscious decision to be that way, or being that way somewhat out of being ignorant of your own latent racism? Or is it a mix?
I want to say it is a mix. From the people that I've personally dealt with, it has been an ignorance that I've, for some people, been able to speak to and enlighten. And then there are some people, and this is from experience from my peers that I've heard from, because I haven't personally dealt with them. Mm-hmm. It seems like a lot of those are willful, because we've had these conversations before. That's the thing. This is not the first time we've had these conversations. So it gets to a point where it's like, okay, we are telling you this, but you're not doing anything. So at this point, I feel like you don't care. You're doing it on purpose. You know, and because in these conversations, we constantly give solutions on what to do. Black people aren't coming. Okay, well, why don't you go into those neighborhoods where you do things? I mean, for example, the Old Globe has a shop in the hood, but from my knowledge, there aren't Black people working in that shop, or a lot of Black people working in that shop. How come you haven't gone into the hood? Maybe find a carpenter business that could probably come and help build your set. You know, find somebody talented, go to the schools that have a population of people of color and find talent there. Go out to these places. Put your stuff, when you put out auditions, don't just send it to the same people. Put it in places that wouldn't normally get the same play. That way, those people of color, those Black people can see these things. Right. I mean, someone who is in the business, sometimes I'll be like, how did you hear about that? I didn't know anything about that audition. I didn't know that they was making that. Oh, that's real nice. I could have did that. Right. It's like, well, such and such told me. Okay, I know such and such. How come they didn't send that to me? How come I didn't see that on their page, or I didn't see that on this page? You know, we have plenty of just Facebook groups that are for Black artists. And you don't see these companies posting in those groups for their shows, whether it's their Black show of the year or not. Right. They're expecting to word of mouth, I guess. Or they ask that one Black person that they know to tell the whole Black community of San Diego. I've had that experience where I was in a show and they're like, oh, we need more Black people. Ebony, can you call some folks? I don't know everybody. I can't. I mean, I helped because I wanted the show to be good, but I don't know everybody. Like, why do you expect that? That's not my job. I didn't get a casting credit. That's your job to go out and do that and go on those communities. And I mean, it starts as small as our children theaters. Not thinking about some of the things that have come out lately, but for our children's theaters, how come you're not finding those little children in the hood that have the talent? You're depending on and I'm gonna say the low rich white girl's parents to come through, and then you give her all the roles. And then when you have your little brown ones that come up, they can't do it, one, because it costs too much. That's one thing. It costs way too much. And then you're just not out there helping and spreading what I believe children's companies are supposed to do. You're supposed to nurture the talent in those children. And you're not doing that, but still trying to put on hairspray. Still trying to put on Once on This Island. It's not for you. You're still trying to put on The Wiz, you know? And so that's why I say I think it's a mix, because we've been having these conversations. We've been giving the solutions that I just gave. We've been given for so long. We've been giving them for so long. So again, people that I've personally dealt with, that I've had these conversations with, who are trying to do things. And then there are those who have heard it and it's fallen on deaf ears. That's a willful ignorance.
How about you, Bill?
I'm going to piggyback on that. I read a quote today from Sherilyn Ifill, who's president of the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. And she said, and this piggybacks right on to what Ebony said, she said, we as a people, meaning Black people, have convinced ourselves into thinking that they don't see and didn't hear but we don't understand it is a choice not to be responsive.
Mm.
So that we are constantly a community trying to give people credit when they have made very, very conscious decisions. I agree also that people can't show up for an audition if they don't know about it. And a lot of times people say as an excuse, well, don't you want the best man for the job or the best woman for the job? Well, if you haven't done outreach, you don't know that you don't have the best woman or the best man. Yes. Also, do you remember reading about the debate between August Wilson and Robert Brustein? And it was at Yale, and he said, American theater is unapologetically Eurocentric.
Mm.
That's it right there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And I also want to talk about, and it's something else that Ebony talked about, and that is creating our own.
Mm.
I think it's really important. I think that because there have been so many years that we have been in this position of saying, would you, could you, please, that I think, you know, I want Black theaters, there are so many wonderful writers out there. And I would like them, our people and our theaters, not to resort to the old classics and to do some of the new works. And again, I think that piggybacks, we have musicals that we can do. You know, we have people who write wonderful musicals. I'm working with a person right now, Carol Foreman, who is Wright, and she's written musicals. And I said to her, well, why don't you do them? And she said, it's hard because people always want to do Raisin in the Sun, right?
Right.
Right? Or you're in a situation where your musical is mismanaged.
Yeah.
You have one idea, you have one mission, and that's not what's on the stage. And that's very painful for an artist.
Right.
Right? I had something else. I want to talk about mission specifically. Part of the reason why I learned so much at Tribeca was because the woman who was the executive director had worked for 11 years with Woody King. And Woody King founded New Federal Theater way back in 1970. And listen to his mission. It says, New Federal Theater's mission statement is to integrate artists of color and women into the mainstream of American theater by training artists for the profession and by presenting plays by writers of color and women to integrated multicultural audiences. Plays which evoke the truth through beautiful and artistic recreation of ourselves. So that's a man of color, a Black man who decided out of the civil rights movement that he would go ahead and create a theater, right? Now, I want to say one other thing about mission. A mission statement should be a statement that anybody can see. So if you have a theater that is talking about serving the community and getting money for serving the community, if they are not serving parts of the community, then in a sense, they're being dishonest by taking that money.
Right. If they got that mission statement,
yes,
that says they're reflecting the images
absolutely
of the whole community, but they're not.
Right. If there is a segment of the community that they are not addressing, to take that funding money is dishonest. And the reason why I say anybody can see it is you talk about allies. If you want to talk about people on a board who are allies, let them look at the mission statement. They should ask to see it. And as allies, they should say, you are not holding up your end of the bargain.
Right.
You are not doing what you said you would do.
That's right. That's right.
Can I say, I also, so Victor, somebody just asked a question asking, how can we hold them accountable? And I think that's a big thing, is that we're not holding them accountable. There's a lot of theaters out there saying that they're doing things, but I ain't heard nothing. I ain't seen nothing.
And on that note, Ahmed, let me interrupt you 1 second. Ahmed, what I would love for you to do, and this is putting you right on the spot.
Go ahead, I'll take the heat.
I want to hear from them.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to hear from them. I want to hear from artistic directors. I want to hear what their plan is for the next 10 years. Yes, we're in the middle of this COVID thing, but people they've already designed what they're doing in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So let them come on, and not to put them on defensive, but for them to share with us what their plans are.
Not their Black representative.
Exactly.
I love the fact that I can see that there are Black people now. I'm seeing that there are Black people in these positions, because one of the biggest things that I talked about with someone is that if there's not representation in the administrative, I'm gonna use this hand because my other hand's disappearing, administrative area, then there's no consideration for Black people down the line when we come to actors and your performers. So it's good to see that, you know, Ahmed is there. It's good to see that Ron and SDMT, you know, it's good to see those people, but I'm just finding this out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you know, if I don't know you're there, then how am I gonna know that your theater even cares like that about representation of people of color, Black people in your company? Yeah. Because all I see is how you audition. I don't see how you guys go about picking it. And if there's these Black people in your administrative area, your artistic directors and people who pick the plays, how come they don't have a voice to be picking stuff that will represent their people?
Well, you know.
So, you know, so I'm just, let me just say one more thing. So for me, it's like I said, it's great to see y'all, but I need to hear it from the white folks who own it, who run it. I need to hear them say it and not them, because to me it feels like they're sending out that Black person, that one Black friend to say, hey, we're doing something. See, we got a Black friend, we got a Black guy in this thing. Not to discredit you or anything, but you know, that's what it feels like. I want to hear you, the owner, tell me what you're doing in order to make sure your company is diverse and it represents, like Bill says, the whole community, not just the great white way. No, I needed to represent everybody, and I need to hear it from you, not your Black representative, and feel like you're trying to pacify me. Right. I also want to see action after I hear it from you, and not just here's some peanuts, here you go, be happy, don't bother us, don't, you know. No, I need to see something that makes me say, okay, I don't need to talk to y'all no more. Right. You know, so that's how I feel about it.
Right. We know to that point, you know,
sustained action. Sorry.
Nikki Cooper, who was a friend of mine, she used to be a box office manager at La Jolla Playhouse. She works at a venue on the East Coast in New Jersey now, and hopefully in the next couple of weeks she'll be on here. I remember when we here at the Rev, we switched over to a ticketing system that we use right now, and they had a national conference. This is the first one that we went to. And it was here, the first conference I went to was here in San Diego. And I think this was like in 2012. And I remember, because this conference is really about the software. So it's mostly an administrative conference. It's mostly administrators, ticketing, fund development, stuff like that. Not much artistic, not much production. And I remember that conference, even that year, was probably a conference of about 1,300 people, like administrators. Mm-hmm. And I remember me and Nikki, and I probably could fit the rest of the Black people still on my one hand. There might have been 5 or 6 of us out of about 13. I'll push it to 8.
There was only a little bit of pepper and all that stuff.
I still say it wasn't going to be on both hands. But from that day forward, me being in administration has always been a thing for me. You know, it's always been a thing. You know, and I've seen it creep up a little bit more over the years, a little bit more, you know. And the thing about when, you know, Sam and the artistic staff asked me to do this, you know, because I'm known around here as one of the people, yeah, you got to shut that dude up. Like he's Like he's gonna say what he says and do what he do. But you know, one of the things I told Sam, I said, okay, the way I'll do this is because I want to know why you're doing it. I'll host it if I know that there's honest action behind this, and I'll do it if there's no censorship. In other words, whoever comes on, they got free reign to say whatever they want, whether they used to work here, did business here, got beef with us here, got, you know, like plan to have beef with us here. Like, there's no, like, that's the only way I'm going to do it. And they were like, no, okay, it's 120%. And now we started things where I've been like, okay, we need to have some meetings and talk about what's being talked about here. Like, we need to have some meetings and talk about what's coming out of this and what's going to move forward from this, because it is literally like, yeah, what's the action behind it? And yeah, we need, like, and it is just like you're saying, it's one thing to have me here doing this and hosting this and talking, you know, but yeah, somebody's going to have to come out from behind the curtain one of these episodes and come out and do some talking. And that's not just coming from me. That's just what it is. That's just what it is. It's like you're saying, it's like people aren't going to want to hear from me on this conversation for so long, because it's going to be just like, you, okay, they got Ahmed out there, but what is Sam talking about? What is Larry talking about? What is Todd talking about? What is Barry at the Globe talking about? What is Chris at Playhouse talking about? What is such and such talking about? What is such and such at North Coast talking about? Sooner or later, yeah, this is great, and I can speak the language and we can get in real talk, but sooner or later someone's got to come down and present the face and talk. And so that's what I'm saying with you. I absolutely am 120% behind it. And even with this now being a partnership with the Globe and the Playhouse, everyone who's behind that has that attitude. You know what I mean? Like, everyone else who's behind that at the org has the attitude like, okay, but we're gonna have to get the brass tacks with this. You know, like, it's gonna have to come down to it, because it's like you said, I'm at the point where I lost my career on radio, but I was always the late night guy. I was always you got the deep, smooth voice, man. Let's keep you on at night. Let's keep you doing the smooth thing. But I don't have a desire to go back to that. I don't have a desire to go back to that now, because I know how my skills transfer. I'm at the point where I'm like when it comes to broadcasting, I'm to the point where, like, I can do my own thing. I don't need to go back to that. You know what I mean? Right. I think we're seeing a lot of that now in the theater community as well.
Yeah.
Also, to Ebony's point, in terms of casting, I think we need to ask artistic directors for principles, as opposed to them saying, well, we have one Black guy in the chorus. There's a difference between diversity and inclusion. So if I know that I'm doing a little night music and she's on my list, that's different from me saying, well, she can sing, so let's put her in the chorus because we're sure she's going to deliver there. Mm-hmm. And that's something an artistic director can speak to, because let's remember that an artistic director is making decisions based on their worldview. Mm-hmm. And if you are not included in their worldview, you suffer.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Or whatever their view of you in their worldview, that's
right.
That's what it's going to be.
Right. And I think that's where the change has to happen, is people have to speak up and say, well, have you looked at Ebony for this? You know, and if somebody's saying, oh, well, we hadn't thought we'd go in that direction. Well, what direction are you talking about exactly? Right. And what is the problem with that?
Right. Why is my color a direction?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Versus it's my talent. And the fact that you don't even think, like, when you say direction, okay, are you thinking, it makes me think, when you say direction, are you thinking my color, or are you thinking because, oh, she gonna go out there and belt? I know what little night music is. I done had training. I know what type of singing happens there. So why would you think I come in there and try to do some Dreamgirls type stuff?
Right.
And it goes again with worldview, that if I don't see her as Desiree it is, then I'm not going to bring her in. Mm-hmm. It would never occur to me to cast a Black woman in that role. That's my worldview.
Right.
Yeah.
And what's in casting has to be able to say, well, you really need, I have 5 Black women who can do this. You need to see them.
Right.
And it's like, it's not like we're women who can, and especially women who can sing that way, they're not super unique. I mean, everybody's not Audra McDonald, but you know what I mean? There are more women who can sing in that way. Not that I could sing like her. I mean, I'm not gonna claim that. But you know, I have the training. And what's sad is that, and I think it's not just me, but other actors who have the same problem as I do, is that at this point, I would actually be excited to be in the chorus of Little Night Music versus getting a principal role. You know what I mean? There's certain shows where I'm like, you know, chorus, I don't know if I would actually take that role. Is it worth my time? You know, when you take the consideration of what I have to do in order to be in that role as an actor, and you're thinking about signing a contract, and you're like, okay, I can take this role because it'll be worth my time in doing this, blah, blah, blah. You know, whereas if somebody were to cast me in the chorus of Little Night Music, I'm sad to say that I would be happy and I would take it.
And I'm sad to say that. I want you to hold on to being the lead. I want you to hold on to being the lead. And it's really ironic, as I was doing my research so I would have these facts and figures today. And I saw an interview with Audra McDonald, and you know what she said? That in the beginning of her career, she would go to auditions and they would say, don't you have a gospel number? But she pushed. And she pushed, and look where she is today. She would say, no, I don't have anything in my repertoire like that, and hit the door.
No, I want to piggyback on that, because it's something you said, and I don't mean to say you feel like that, but it can become internalized, is when you said other actors who have like that same problem. I tell this story only because this part of like the radio world it coincides with the acting world, because the radio world is the same way. Like, you could have a gig and it can be gone tomorrow, and you got to go, and you got it for voice work, and you got to submit, you know, you got to do that stuff. And I remember going for a gig and, you know, submitted an air check. And I remember the guy saying to me, well, you know, you definitely sound Black. And I replied to him immediately. I tell this story, everyone hears this story probably a million times from me, but it's so important. And without missing a beat, I said, well, yeah, it's probably not going to change anytime soon. And him, without missing a beat, replied to me, oh, well, you know, such and such had that problem. Now, two things came from that. Number one, that problem. And number two was, I didn't even know that guy was Black.
Wow.
Because someone told him that. Somebody somewhere told him that, and he internalized it, and he took it to heart. And I know other Black people in broadcasting who internalized that. And the next time I heard them on the radio, they sounded nothing like I heard them sound last year. And from that moment forward, this was early in my radio career. I wasn't even on air yet. From that moment forward, I told myself, you are never changing how you sound. And now 15 years later, whether I lost the gig, the station with belly under, there has never been a time where my voice didn't find its way to broadcast, because it's my voice.
Yes.
And so it's just like Bill is saying, and it's just like you were saying, like, I know you weren't saying it like that, but it's just sometimes the language can become embedded to younger people when they hear it. You know what I'm saying? And the way it's presented to me, I'm just a fighter. I just don't like losing. I'm just competitive. So when the dude said it to me, I was just like, I'm John and Ora's son. What are you talking about? A problem? That ain't a problem. That's me. You know, and so to your point, Bill, like you were saying, like, don't lose that. Like, don't let no one tell you that. Don't let anyone put that, you know, even in anywhere in your soul.
Right. You have to remember, you are not a chorus person. That's not what you do. And hold on to it.
I want to tell everybody, make sure if you have questions or comments that you have for Ebony or Bill, go ahead and submit those right now, whether you're watching on Facebook or whether you're watching on Zoom, and we'll get to asking those. I want to go to Ebony and Bill, and we've kind of been having this, but I kind of want to get kind of a summation, flash forward now. We've kind of been talking about it, but again, like I said, here we are. And, you know, I don't know if a lot of people did this, you know, we know after the death of George Floyd, everyone had the statements. Everybody, every theater, every shoe company, every business, didn't matter, Uber, Amazon, whatever. Everybody put the black screen with the white lettering out there. And we
after
this,
somebody said something.
As if this was going to blow over. And like I said, every 2 weeks when I've done this, there's been something new to let you know this is not going to blow over. Last time when I talked to Minka, it wasn't anything violent, but it was that Kamala Harris was picked as Joe Biden's running mate, and the whole thing of representation was back out in front, and the whole thing of race was back out in front. Here we are talking to you guys now. Just 2 days ago, we've had the killing of the man in Milwaukee, and now the killing of the 2 other protesters, and race is back out front. And so, you know, people need to understand this is not going away because you made a statement. This is going to continue happening, and people are aware this is happening. And now that you've made the statements, people who donate, corporations, if you look at the Mellon Foundation, we're not giving anybody money anymore who's not doing real. You can't just tell us you're doing the work anymore. We need to see the work you're doing, or we're not giving you money anymore. So as we move forward now, I want each of you to give me what do you think, you know, as brief as you can, what do you think going forward is the main thing for organizations to do if they're being honest and forthright, but also what do we do as actors and administrators moving forward in this conversation?
Ebony?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. After George Floyd, I don't know how long afterwards, but I heard that Ebony was doing this demonstration. And I knew that I had to be there, right? And do you remember, I got in touch with you and I said, what are you doing and where is it? And I was so moved because she had an army there that was supporting her, number one. And number two, as an artist, I said to her, I said, why did you do it? And she said, because nobody else was. And I did my program that you were a part of, Ebony, that I wanted to do Black literature. And I didn't know anything about how to do a Zoom program. So I was making mistakes right and left. One of the people, and I will say it, left Ebony's name off the credits, and I had to reprimand him and then apologize to her about 50 times. But what I'm proud of is the fact that she showed up and other artists showed up, and we said, we are Black, we create art, and we're gonna put it out. And I think that's what we have to do. I think we can't continue to say, please do this. Even if we're angry, I think we have to continue to do our art. And as far as people who are not of color in power positions, we have to be adamant. And that's why I want people to come and sit, whatever room you're in, around the table and say, this is what our future is, and this is how we are being inclusive. And if they're not, you as a great host need to figure out a way to say, well, why not?
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I just
that's what I'm known for saying a lot.
Yeah, very true.
I'll come sit next to you. I'll never work in this town, but I'll come sit next to you. The other thing is, I want to put this out, and Ebony, you should too. I said I want to do more directing. All right, Hamilton was born out of the public theater saying, here's 3 weeks, here's a small stipend, we'll come see what you're doing. Hamilton came out of that, Chorus Line came out of that. Why I would like these theaters to say, if you feel people are not qualified but talented, give them 3 weeks. I am more than happy to go into a lab situation and you can come in and tell me what you think about it. So I want every artistic director who is out there to hear, I am willing to do that.
That's right.
Very true. I agree. I absolutely agree. I think for me, going into the future, piggybacking off of what Bill said, we definitely, as a community, and I'm referring specifically to melanated folks, we need to focus on our own. It's okay to have these talks. It's okay to give resources to these theaters. It's okay to answer their questions. But I think at the same time, we need to be building. I mean, we have one of the oldest Black theaters in San Diego, Common Ground.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? With Miss Yolanda as the artistic director now, right?
Yeah.
And the theater is right now in the ECC, and that is a beautiful big theater, and it has lots of room for us.
Know about.
Yeah, nobody knows about. And I've performed in that theater, and we could totally, if we brought all our resources together just for a show at Common Ground that wasn't Raisin in the Sun, we could absolutely put on something gorgeous.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And meaningful, and have it be just as good. And it could be a classic, it could be a new show. I mean, La Jolla Playhouse thrives off of new playwrights.
Yeah.
Why can't we thrive off of new playwrights, new Black playwrights? Yeah. I think like I said, it's okay to give these theaters the help that they need if they actually want to help. But just in case, and actually not even just in case, even if they do what they're supposed to do, we should still be building our own, period.
Absolutely.
That's what we need to do. And I think absolutely, like Bill said, I'm if you don't want to put someone on your stage because you're worried about the not getting the money that you thought you would get if you had put on Buddy Holly, I'm naming shows I'm in. I was in, like, you know, or what is that? Smokey Joe's Cafe. Mm. You know what I mean? If you're concerned about money, then yes, give a little change, and I'll come in and do a 3-week workshop to help a Black playwright get their stuff off the ground. I mean, I work with my friend of mine, Richard Allen, and Taryn Gray, who wrote Freedom Riders, which is a civil rights musical. I've been working for them for years on their show, and it has not gotten the attention that it should have. And the music, the book is amazing, but it ain't on Broadway, which I'm like, I don't understand. Right. It's better than some of the shows that are currently on Broadway, to tell you the truth. Right. You know, and I think it has a lot to do with it, one being about the civil rights movement, and also him being a Black writer. Though he has a white partner help, you know, with it, it's still, you know what I mean? Like, but he did one about Disney, and he got so much talk and so much love about his Disney, Walt Disney musical versus his Freedom Riders musical, which has been out way longer. Mm. You know what I mean? And that's an issue. And I think, like I said, if theaters are worried about money, if that's what it is, if you're worried about money promoting these new playwrights, or somebody doesn't have a show that is particularly ready to be put on stage, like Bill said, I'm down to help. I'm down to be there. I'm down to be present and to work with these shows. I'm down to give my input. I'm down to give my talent. But you have to give that space. You have to be willing to give that space. If you actually want to do something, then give somebody some space. Otherwise, we're going to make our own space, and then you'd be mad because we won't be there. Mm.
There is no lack of money, Ebony. There is no lack of money.
You know what?
It's where it's going. You have people who are funding. And that's why I'm saying, if they are truly allies, look at the mission statement and say, I am not giving you $50,000 until you do something with Black people in the lead.
Yeah, but it's the funding. The people who are funding, our folks ain't worried about us. That's what I'm saying. Like a lot of these theaters, I know that some of these theaters, just from being in, I've done administration in theater, not here in San Diego, but outside. I've been in that administrative world before. And I know that a lot of our donors are old white people. And those old white people want to see Black folks shucking and jiving, not being, that lead that actually has a heart and a story arc. So when they come in to see a show, they're not going to donate most of the time. Right. They're not going to donate to a show that is full of people of color, not shucking and jiving. Like, they love Little Shop of Horrors. They absolutely love it because it's people of color, Black folks shucking and jiving. Great music. I love the show. I do. And it's not I wouldn't say it's a show that is problematic, but it's in that same vein of thought, you know, when they see that. I mean, when I did Buddy Holly, I was a torch singer. I got on stage and I was a torch singer. All the old white people, who, thank you very much for the compliments, came up and was like, oh my goodness, it reminded me of this when I was this old. And, and I just loved it. I was like the favorite part of the show because, I mean, you know what I mean. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's a problem. That's an issue. Sure. So those people are going to donate to see those same things, not Black people who have a story arc, who have feelings, who have issues that they can actually relate to. Yeah. They don't want to relate to that. I
don't count anybody out, and I'll tell you why. It's because there are people who decide to build theaters, and it's backbreaking to be a producer, especially a producer of color. But you have to ask that 10% or that 5% to say, we need this money, and you just have to work at it. And if you don't get that 5%, then you go to your own community who may have less, but they need to put in their $10.
True. I will say that there's a theater who, despite everything and their donors, I've seen it, will still put stuff on New Village Arts in Carlsbad. They are in a very, 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 very conservative. It's a beach town, but it's heck conservative. Yeah. And they do shows full of women. They do shows full of people of color. They do shows with LGBTQIA+. Right. Try to get all the letters, alphabet community. That's what we call us, the alphabet community. And and we've had donors write letters upset. And Christiane will just be like, oh, well, that's too bad. Have a nice day. We're still gonna put it on. You don't have to come back if you don't want to. And I wish more theaters had that attitude. I think that attitude, we could progress. Though I do, as much as they help and as much as they want to put people of color in the spotlight, I think it could always be more. You know what I mean? But that is one theater that is forging forward and doing things for women and people of color, LGBTQIA+, and all the communities, the minority communities. Right. So, and I think more people need to have that attitude.
Absolutely.
I think what you're saying, I think there's a little bit of a sea change happening. I think there's a little bit happening. I think you're starting to see donors who are kind of like, okay, because I think it does, and you're right, it does take courage from the theater to those people who complain and say, hey, I don't like this. I don't like that Black Lives Matters message that you put out. You have to say, well, sorry, look, we did that. It is what it is. But I also think what's going to make part of that change is, I think what's going to make part of that change now is the big foundations, like the big secret that like theaters need that big foundation money. They need that. They need that big foundation money. And now those big foundations are starting to make that turn and be like, we need to see what you are doing with the money, or you're not going to get as much next year, and you're not going to get as much as the year after that. And like I said, I think what made that giant red flag was like the Mellon Foundation making that big. I mean, it was already coming. I had already seen it coming last year, So I think when the Mellon Foundation finally came out and said, we're just not giving anybody money unless you are unless you got actionable items on the plate. Don't tell us what you're doing. We need to see it, or the gravy train shuts down, And at some point, that has to filter down because people don't want to see their favorite theater go out of business.
Yeah. Right.
They don't. They have allegiances. They don't want to see their favorite Playhouse go out. Yeah. And so at some point, they might put up a little resistance for a minute. Oh, I can't believe you had all them colored folks on stage. I can't believe you had all them people on stage. They might get mad for a minute, but sooner or later, they got to come back around because it's still their theater. It's still the theater they've been going through for 30 years.
And that's why workshops are important also, because if your big money givers have a problem, if your heart is in the right place as an artistic director, you can still have a small theater where you're growing something and you're not losing a dollar.
Right.
Very true.
Right. Well, Ebony and Bill, I don't want to keep you guys too long. It's after 8. What I want to do is take a moment for you guys to tell everybody where they can find you. What do you do? What do you want to drop? In fact, let's just not even where they can find you. For the people who are listening, I have someone who just asked right now, hey, is this going to be, or am I going to watch this later? I got people who need to watch this because we're getting a lot of people who are coming to watch this afterwards. What would you want to tell the people who are watching and who will watch this, who are a mix of theater goers? There's a mix of administrators watching. There's a mix of actors watching. There's a mix of our whole community in every aspect watching who will pass this along. What's your final word for tonight to everybody watching? Whatever you would want to tell them at this moment. Like, what is it that you want to tell everybody to go do once this thing closes up?
Make art. If you're an artist, make art. And don't let anybody stand in your way. And I'm serious about doing it on, as Ebony talked about, small levels, and I talked about, it's fine to go out and do something that's on a smaller level that you believe in and push and hold on to it. And it is a tough road, absolutely. But if you're an artist, don't let anybody deny you the right to make art. That's what I'd say. That's
right. How about you, Ebony?
I would say, don't see about it, be about it.
There you go. That's right.
You know what I mean? Enough with all the talk. Enough with, and I understand we're right now with the pandemic and everything. So obviously we don't have any in-person shows. I get it. And people aren't making money right now. I totally understand.
But But people are making plans.
Right. So when we come out of this pandemic, post your plan. You have a page and y'all sending emails and posting things about, oh, come take a look at these past artists, or, hey, this is what we did in 1975. Why don't you post to me what you're doing in 2020 to make your theater diverse, inclusive, and people can feel belonging.
Right.
What are you doing? What is going to be your step-by-step plan? Who are you planning on hiring?
Yeah.
Who are you planning on casting? What is your season going to look like? Can I get more than one summer or winter musical?
Oh, the 2-week festivals are what kill me.
We're going
to have Black theater for 2 weeks. 2 weeks. And we're going to limit it from Thursday to Sunday. And if you don't do those 2 weeks, you won't see any Black theater in our theater.
Well, because that's the only time we acting right.
Right. That's it. We don't do it no other time.
Right.
Go and put some money somewhere for those people, for those folks, because a lot of people who deal with theater, you might not be making money from your theater, but you're making money somewhere else. Go donate to a Black theater. Yeah. Go donate to a Black artist. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Go see what they're doing and actually put yourself in what they're doing versus, oh, let me go watch that Zoom. No. Do something. Ask them, what can I do to help? What can I do to make it better, to be a part, and then do it?
Because that's the dirty little inside secret, right? When everybody says, well, I don't know if it's going to make money, because everybody's putting on a lot of shows every season that don't make no money.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They break even. Mm-hmm.
Well, look, Ebony, I'm going to let you go. Bill, I'm going to let you go. I think.
Do they want to do the question and answer?
I think people have been just commenting along with us the whole time. There's not any questions, but people have just been commenting along with everything we said. We've been having a little chorus here going on.
Right? It's true. I mean, I've seen a lot.
I think we already lost Bill.
Yeah, he kind of disappeared. I wonder what happened.
I don't know if he lost his connection, but
well, y'all can find me, Ebony Muse, EBONIMUSE, all of my social media, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, Twitch. You can find me under that name, and I'll put it in the chat. So.
All right. Ebony, thank you very much. Bill is not still on, but Bill, I know you'll hear this later on, and I'll send you an email. Thank you very much, Bill, for joining us. And Ebony, and this goes out to Bill too. I really want you guys to come back in the near future.
Of course.
We really want to expand this, and we do want, and there are plans to expand this, like you and Bill were saying. We do want to expand this to have administrators come on, to have other people come on and expand this conversation to include more than just the melanated skin. We want this to be an actionable item. We want people to come on and have an honest conversation and expand it. So I definitely want you to come back, and I thank you for joining us tonight. I really do. I appreciate it. And
anytime.
Everybody who watched tonight, thank you very much for joining us. Remember, coming up on September 10th, Mr. Sheldon Epps. I'll be talking to Sheldon Epps. It's going to be a great conversation. Head on over to sdrep.org/listening to sign up, or go on Eventbrite, look for We Are Listening or Sheldon Epps, and sign up and get the Zoom link for that. And thank all of you for joining us, and I hope to see you next time again. Ebony, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me, Ahmed. I really appreciate it.
For sure. And everybody, have a great, I know it's only Thursday, but that's a wrap. Have a good weekend.
Bye.
Bye.